Hey everybody, this is Grace, and I'm going to tell a few stories in this video. It's been on my mind this morning about the way things used to be. Hopefully they're not still this way, but I'll start with this one. Back when Adam and I were attending university, I think we were living on campus actually. I think we were both working on our master's degrees. He and I decided to, back then, people who were into computers were called, were geeks, and geek was a dirty four-letter word. Okay, they were just strange people, very strange. That's what we said. We were both geeks. I was more than he. And so back then, I was very strange because I actually knew how to use a computer program too. So does he. But we decided to go to a nearby high-tech, let's just call it high-tech store. And it was near the campus, and we just walked over there. And when I got there, I said, I want to test something. I said, when we go in there, I want you to go one way, me to go the other way, and act like we're not together. And he said, okay, fine. And sure enough, exactly what I thought did happen. The people working there, they tried to help him, ignored me, like I was invisible. Now, before I keep on this telling these stories, I know some people say, well, maybe just you. No, it wasn't just me. Say that about, hopefully it's still not this way, as if I know it's not. It still is. It depends. It really depends. It's not as bad, I have to say. Okay, but I'd say, I don't know how many years ago, I went to eat lunch with this guy, this man. He was a little older than I. And it was a busy restaurant and kind of tiny for Texas, for a Texan place. It was very crowded. And when we went in, we said, we're seated at a table, and I told him, I said, watch this. I'm good at watch this. And I said, they're going to wait on you. They'll take my order. But pretty much they will focus on you, the wait staff will focus on you, will look at you and ask you if you need refills or is everything okay like you want it, and they'll give you the check, but they will not ask me if I need my drink refilled or anything. Okay, they were just going to totally ignore me once we've had our meal, and even before then, just take your order and give it to you. Me, that is. And he was like, nah, they're not going to be like that. There's no way. That doesn't happen these days. It wasn't that many years ago. And I said, yeah, you watch. And I think we've all heard about this. I don't know if there's any proof behind it. There's any, research done on it. But what we hear is that wait staff tend to focus on the man because he's the one that gives the tip. And if they really please him, then he'll leave a bigger tip. Okay. And now I've heard that. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if there's any truth behind it. But that is what happened. And he was shocked. He was totally shocked at how they just ignored me. Seriously. You know how many times they'll come up to the table and everything, many times around here, but just totally ignored me after, just hand me my food, and that was that's all the attention she needs. Like I said, some people would say it's just me. Maybe it's something about me that, people just decide to ignore me. No. Here's another one. Starting back when I was 19, which was a long time ago, I married Adam when I was 18, and 19, we had two older, we were just starting out, and we had two older cars, and one of them, it was a Dodge Dart. Yeah, I took to have it repaired. I think it needed brake shoes or something like that, brake pads, I don't know what they were called back then, and I took it to this place, and the guy told me that there was all this stuff wrong with the drum and all this, whatever they were called, I'm not all into that stuff. And he told me that it would be either 665 or 667. He skipped the middle one in between. And, okay, like I said, that was many years ago. And guess what? Ever since then, anytime I go to have anything done to one of my automobiles, you know, it would always, if I went by myself or went with somebody, another woman, it was always $665 or $667 is what it was going to cost in the end, even if I just needed the oil changed. Okay, and people didn't want to believe me on this. Nobody really did, except if they were there and they were shocked. Okay, so at 19, I learned my lesson not to go by myself, and at some point in my life, I learned not to go with another woman, and that is sad, very. But to go with a man. Okay, so I thought. One time I went, you know, I knew the score. I went with one of my friends, and I told her, watch it. It's going to be 665 or 667. And at the end, they're going to want all this stuff done. And it was for her. She was shocked. I let them know what I thought about it. And after that, as I got older, I started letting them know, no, you're not going to do this to me. This is what it is. This is what I want. I want this done, and that's it. Plain and simple. That is it. And I'm going to have somebody check it out. Anyway, make sure they replace it. Yeah, that's happened before. They say they're going to replace something. I think it happened to Adam, and they didn't even replace it. It was just an old used one or something, whatever it was. That was many years ago. But anyway, I went with a friend of mine one time. It was a friend of my sister's, and it was a long story, but I went with her, and I told her about it, and she was, no way. You know, she was kind of a really strong woman, and you know, very vocal. And I told her, I said, yeah, it's going to be 665 or 667. That's what they're going to come up with. She couldn't believe me. Yeah, she went in with me, and that's what they said. And she almost hit the floor laughing. Seriously, she was very dramatic type. She almost hit the floor. I mean, literally kind of hit the floor, because she was laughing, and then started laughing so hard when they came out and said that's what it's going to be. It was one of the two. I don't remember, but how can you know this? How can it actually happen to you so many times that you had warned me ahead of time and you knew this was going to happen? I said history. History is a good predictor of the present and future. So anyway, it happened again. The last time I think it happened, it was with Adam. And he let me handle it, and I told him and warned him and showed him this is what it's going to be. Sure enough, it was. You know, all these people, the other people that had went with me and heard about it over all those years, they just couldn't believe it. But it was true. Okay, but it wasn't only me. Like I said, one time I went with a friend. But it was like, okay, this is what we're going to tell this person. And you imagine over all this time, it could, you know, you would think inflation, just time going by, it would be higher from the time I was 19 till now. Yeah, but it was always those two, either one of those two numbers. And that was kind of freaky all around. It was more than just freaky, you know what I mean. Okay, and how about another story? Back when I was, I don't know now, probably in my 20s, mid to late 20s, I bought a house, okay, in my old hometown. And Adam and I did. But it was mine. It was in my name. It was my property. And I went with my mother, who's, I'd say she was interesting. So was my dad. They were kind of backwards on certain things. I would call them independent, but she was like a liberal Republican, and my dad was a conservative Democrat. Okay, talk about confusing, but no, they were independents. Really, what it is, like me, independent. And anyway, we went to this place to get the electricity turned on, and it was the only one, the only one, and it was in town, and you had to go to there to do it. There was nothing online. This was many years ago. Nothing, online you could do or anything. So I went with my mom to have the electricity turned on in that house that I bought. And there was a woman, only one woman at the counter, and that's all I saw when we went in. And I told her what I needed to do, and she said, here's the paperwork. Nobody else was in there. No other customers or anything. It was small. And so as I was filling it out, she said, something happened. I don't know why, but she said, well, ma'am, if you're married, you have to put his name first. I said, what do you mean I have to put his name first? This is my house, and I'm the one person's here. And she said, no, he's the man. His name has to go first. I said, well, I want to speak to your supervisor, and I want to ask your supervisor about this. I was like, I've always been kind of vocal, kind of. But, so she got, I wasn't raising my voice, I wasn't acting all histrionic, you know, not at all. I'm a rather mild-mannered person, as it is, always have been. But I would make statements, no, this isn't happening. And so she went, you know, it was just a small place, and there was a room right behind it, and she just opened the door, and it was a woman who was the manager. And she acted like she did not want to come out. You know, she had apparently heard some of it, and she told her, you know, she wants to see you. And she, you know, hem and hawed and all that kind of stuff, not wanting to come out. And she said, ma'am, that's just how it is. He's the man. His name goes first on the application. I let them know, and I let them know I was going to call their superiors. And, yeah. And my mom was standing there. She was patting me. She said, no, don't say anything. That's just how it is. Don't say anything. And she was very mild-mannered. And she also suffered, I truly believe, from agoraphobia. And so it was quite a bit for her to be there. And here I am. I'm not making a scene because there's nobody else around, and I wasn't raising my voice. I was just saying, that's wrong. And the woman at the counter, she said, that is wrong. I don't understand it either. She kind of whispered it to me. Anyway, my mom, I had to have electricity, so I had to do it, but I was going to make sure people knew about it, you know, their higher-ups. And how wrong that was. You know, it's my house. I'm the person there. The whole thing to me was what I was saying then was, I'm the person here filling out this application. No, they wouldn't accept it any other way. So we got out to the car. I think I was driving my mom's station wagon. And she got on the other side, and she looked up. You know, my mom was real timid, and like I said, you know, her ideology. But anyway, she looked at me. She goes, I'm proud of you. You're right. And that was so unlike my mother to say anything like that. My mother was one, well, you women are the fault. You women. Where are you, Mom? Anyway, yeah, we had differences in our way of looking at things. But then she said, you are so right. That is so wrong. And it was just almost floored me that she said that because of the way she looked at the world, you know. But then, like I said, sometimes she was open to thoughts, you know, open to differences and to see things. And she said she just couldn't get over it. She said that was so wrong. But that's how it was back then. Hopefully it's still not like that. Okay, and I do wonder if, you know, people, both males and females, if you, you know, if you oppress one, you oppress all. But hopefully people understand that there were people like me and others who had to, you know, even though it was so small, you know, such a small thing to the you know, the big picture, but we had to make our statements. You know, some of us had to fight for these kinds of things to change. Okay, and I wonder if they realized that we had to, and it wasn't just, you know, just there, just in place. It was kind of like me whenever, I don't know, I think I was in my, you know, mid to early, in my 20s. I was working at a place. I just moved, I think, to Austin. I was working in Austin maybe, or somewhere else. I don't know. I moved around a lot when I was younger. But I was working as a temporary job, and we were all sitting at a table, and we were, at the time, I think I was in college, and we were doing, I was in college, but we were doing mail, you know, folding mail that was going to go out. It was a temporary job, like I said. And there was an older woman. She was probably in her 60s. And she explained some things to us, like when she was young, when she was married, after she first got married, she had to, her husband's name had to be on the checkbook, checking account, and her checkbooks. And some people these days might not know what those are. But yeah, that it had to be his, and her name could not be on it. And then as time went by, that her name couldn't be on it. It would have to be Mr. and Mrs. his first name and his last name. Okay. And it was just shocking to me. I didn't know that that had happened, within my lifetime too. Well, no, her lifetime, but that it was. And she said that it was back in the 70s, so it was in my lifetime. And when I was really young. So what happened to me was when I was in the 80s. I think, I had moved to, like I said, I moved around a lot. And this time I think I was in San Antonio, Texas. And I went to a bank and I was opening up a checking account for myself. And I was told that, I told them I wanted my maiden name as my last name. That's how I wanted it. There was another story about that too. And they said, ma'am, you can't do that. I said, why not? And they said, we just can't let you put your last name as your maiden name. It has to be his name. And that happened to me. Like I said, there's a story behind it. When I got married, I went to the DPS to get my driver's license. And they told me that I would have, I don't know how old I was then, but real young, 19 maybe. And they told me that I had to change my last name to his last name, or the Social Security office would fine and or imprison me. And I said, that's wrong. That's all kinds of wrong. This is my name. This is my last name. Nope, ma'am, you have to do it. So I had to do it. So here it is years later, a few years later, I don't know how many. I'm in San Antonio and trying to open a bank account in my name, and they're saying no. And I don't know what it is today. I really don't know how this is today. And I said rather loudly, not in a histrionic way, I said loud enough for other people to hear. I said, why can't I use my own name? It's my name. It's my checking account. And the manager walked over. He said, ma'am, you can do that, but you have to hyphenate it. So I had to hyphenate my last name with his last name. Yeah, that's the only way. Because I even had said, I remember saying this, if you want my money in your bank, you're going to let me have my name the way I want it. Yeah. Oh, I was vocal. I've always been vocal. Okay, like I said, some people had to stand up and fight. Now, some people think, oh, you're just talking about how bad it is for women. You did hear me say that they handed the man the check, right, at the restaurant, right? Okay, now that could be because they were motivated that he pays, so he gives a tip, and they say that women don't give good tips. Yeah. Did I add that to the beginning part of it? Maybe not, but that's what I had heard. Like I said, I don't think there's any research behind it, but anyway, but that's not all. There were situations where they, were men, at least back then, I don't know if it's still the same today, well, anyway, that he's a responsible party, like I was saying, that his name had to be on the application first. And some think that, oh, well, that's just my whole focus is on how bad it is, oppressive it has been for women. But it's also, like I'm saying, for men too. And, maybe you've heard men say that, around my age group or so, say that it's such a, so difficult because they are thought that way, that they are the responsible party for things. Okay, whether it's financial or what, making final decisions. Now, all of this is really, to me, bad. It's not, it's not about that. It's not men have these gender roles and women have these gender roles, male or female. They don't have to be adults. That they must fall into the place in those. And that the society, the systems keep them in that kind of place. That's not good. And I do wonder, if younger people realize what we went through, what was different. Like I said, not all of it's changed, but what was different when we were young, and what they have now is just they accepted that it's there. This is not one size fits all. Maybe they don't even realize that it wasn't always the case, and it may have been different in their lifetime. That's kind of a strange way to put it, isn't it? But anyway, there's more I could tell, and I probably have before. And I just put up a video yesterday about standing your ground, and I had made that, I don't know, it was probably a couple of weeks before then, so that I uploaded it. Who knows when I made it. But this was on my mind today again. This about standing your ground. But like I said, it's to each their own, because people can be dangerous. We know that. Anybody can be dangerous if you stand up to them. And you have to pay the consequences to your own actions or inactions. But I do believe also it helps the society as a whole whenever people, those who can, stand up and say, this is wrong, I don't accept that, this needs to change. And there are some people out there that believe nobody should do that. Nobody should do that at all. It is what it is, and status quo is the best. No, it's not. It's not always. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, and I'll talk to you on another video.